Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk about breaking in firearms. We're going to talk about how to break in a firearm that you intend on carrying. So whatever your conceal and carry gun is, you've just bought a new one. Hey, I want to be able to take this. At what point in time is it safe for me to actually take this thing from the box it came in to put it in a holster and carrying it out and getting ready for combat? So when I say combat, we're talking about civilians. So we're just walking around with a gun and hoping nothing happens that we have to take care of. So what we're going to look at is we need to look at a couple things. We need to look at what the break-in process actually consists of, why we have to do it, and we need to look at defining the break-in process. And what I mean by that is the break-in process is very different when we talk about a match-grade rifle versus a pistol. So the break-in process today that we're talking about is specific to pistols. And the reason it's specific to pistols is because we're not dealing with the accuracy details that a match-grade component barrel is dealing with. Even if you have a match-grade pistol, realize match-grade pistol, it's 1.5 inches at inch groups at 25 yards. It's not that big a deal, and so you're not really going to screw up that match-grade accuracy. On most pistols now are getting built to match-grade accuracy. It's just not that tough to do. So, okay. So what we have to talk about, if we have to talk about what exactly this process entails, right? So we have this mechanical device in our hand, little explosions, and everything's moving in there. And so we have metal on metal, a lot of metal on metal contact, and we need to make sure that when that metal on metal is getting set, that we actually give it a chance to get set, but then that we keep it oiled so we have minimal contact after that. So we really want that nice layer of oil in there on all these things to kind of keep everything running smoothly, right? Same theory as our cars and our pistons and everything. We really want things to be riding on oil more than they are metal on metal. And we want that good, real thin layer of oil on everything to keep everything moving and operating smoothly and keep the wear minimized, the wear minimized. Okay, and the other thing that we're going to do is we're going to set our springs, right? So springs might be a little bit stiff from the factory, and so we're going to get those used a couple times and really get them broken in. And the way that springs get broken in and set is by expanding and contracting a bunch of times. And so we're going to get all those springs and everything broken in to where we've got now this system that is reliable and accurate for our uses as a conceal and carry gun. So what I'm going to tell you to do is a little bit different than what you might be used to. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and oil the gun. I'm not going to clean the gun. The gun is shipped with a protective grease on there. We're going to just go ahead and leave that on there because the best way to get that off is actually to detail clean it later. But in the meantime, we're going to go ahead and just burn all that crap off there because it's going to toast right up and get off there. So we need to get the gun nice and hot for this first session. So the first session, I'm going to plan about 400 rounds. 400 rounds will get everything really well set in there, give you a chance to really check and make sure that I didn't get a lemon from the factory and I did get a quality firearm. And so, but again, we need 400 rounds because we really need that gun to get warm. And so it takes some rounds to do that. So the first one is 400 rounds. The other reason we pick 400 rounds is because most gun manufacturers will tell you your break-in period is about 400 rounds, and that's what they want to see. So with the exception of Glock doesn't tell you to do a break-in. I don't know of anybody else that does offhand. If you know of somebody, put it down in the comment box, but I don't know of anyone else offhand that says you don't need to break in your guns. Okay. So now we've decided to go out to the range. We're going to go get our gun broken in. What's our first step? Well, the first step is that I'm going to do about 400 rounds. Again, I'm going to do some drills because I'm not just standing here shooting. I don't want to waste the ammo. I'm going to run through drills and training and stuff, but I'm going to plan a little bit of a day to get this gun broken in because it's going to take a while to go through 400 rounds of actual focus fire training and getting that gun hot and running. And so, I'm going to keep a nice big thing of oil with me because I'm going to anticipate that gun is going to have some problems and it's going to get dry, it's going to need oiled and everything, so I might have to take it apart a few times, I might have to add some oil to it, and so we need to be aware of that and have that oil on hand. So you should always have oil in your range bag. Okay, so we set up our training plan, our 400 round training plan. We're running through it. The gun's had a few malfunctions. That's okay. We tap rack, we clear, we move on, and again, we kind of keep coming back as we put magazines together and reload the magazines. We add a little bit of oil to the slide and the rails and everything. Make sure that gun's running good. 400 rounds are done. Now what are we going to do? Well, the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and clean that gun. So we're actually not leaving the range yet, though, because we're going to go ahead and clean that gun and then we're going to fire it again. When I say detail clean this gun, I mean that we're going to strip it down to the end components. So some guns, if it's real complicated and you don't feel comfortable doing that, Take it down as far as you feel comfortable, but we're not just removing the slide in the barrel and cleaning the recoil spring in the barrel. We're actually going to go take this down to all the end components. Again, if you don't feel comfortable doing that, don't do it. Just go ahead and get some Q-tips and everything, because you're going to spend a little bit more time with some Q-tips. And then dental picks, I don't like scraping. Don't scrape. I'm not a fan of scraping. So I know some people are, but I use dental picks with like cotton swabs and stuff, and you can get down in there and get that carbon and everything off. But you want to use a degreaser at this point in time. At this point in time, we're going to completely degrease this pistol, and that degreasing is going to get rid of all the oil that we've added on there, all the carbon, everything. It should be nice and shiny after this. Then we're going to individually oil each component, and we're going to put that whole gun back together. And in order to make sure that we put it back together right, and I do this after every time I detail clean my guns, but I'm going to take that gun down and I'm going to shoot about 50 more rounds down range out of it. And again, I want to get all that oil worked into places. I want to get any excess burned off. I want to make sure that I got it all put together right. So I'm going to put 50 more rounds. Guys, I apologize about that wind. I hope it's not screwing up the sound. So now I'm at 450 rounds. I've got this gun broken in. At this point in time, I would feel okay carrying the gun. It is not broken in yet, but at this point in time, I know I have a reasonably competent pistol. As long as I didn't have any major problems, at this point in time, I'm going to feel confident carrying that gun. I'd like to take it to 1,000, but 450 is reasonably in most people's budget. So it depends on how much of a gun guy you are. If you just want to have one gun and carry, then 450. If you're a big gun guy and you don't mind shooting and spending some money on ammo, get that thing to 1,000, 1,500 rounds before you carry it. That's the better option. So, okay, so our next step, so now we're done. We're done shooting for the day, because we're not gaining anything else at this point in time, because again, we're not just sending rounds down range to break this in. We want to get dual purpose and take advantage of the training. So at this point in time, I want to go get a few competitions under my belt, or get a class under my belt, or something along those lines with this pistol. And that'll give me a chance to really put another good 400 or 500 rounds through this and get it over that 1,000 round threshold. At that point in time, anybody should really feel confident with their gun that, yeah, this is a quality firearm and I'm not having any problems. It's not broken in yet, though. Now, if we think about it, this is like a car getting 5,000, 10,000 miles on it. It's not broken in yet. It's getting broken in, and we're getting there, but we're not broken in yet. I really want to see about 5,000 rounds through that gun before we say, yes, this gun is broken in and it is ready to go. As far as it's gone as far as it's going to go. Every component on here is acceptably worn in, it is oiled, it is cleaned, and it is taken care of. Okay, at this point in time, we've got a car with 30,000 miles on it. We know it's reliable. We know it's going to do what we want it to do, and we're comfortable with the operation of it. So we're working towards 5,000 rounds. In order to do that, we're going to do 200 round training sessions, competitions, classes, whatever, and start working through that. And every time we do that, in those first 5,000 rounds, we're going to clean it every single time we shoot that gun. Every single time we put about 150, 200 rounds through it, we're going to clean it. Now, we're not going to completely detail clean it, but we are going to be getting Q-tips in there and really get that nicely. After 5,000 rounds, you can drop your cleaning schedule down a little bit, but at 5,000 rounds, I'm going to detail clean that gun one final time. 5,000 rounds approximately. If you hit 4,500 or something like that, that's fine. But 5,000 rounds approximately is what I go for. So at that point in time, I'm going to detail strip my gun again, completely disassemble it, completely degrease, completely re-oil everything, go back out to the range, put 50 rounds down range, and I've got a gun that's well broken in. Now, a lot of people are going to say that's excessive, and that's fine. You can think that that's excessive, but I like the training. I like using my guns. I want to get out. I want to be confident with that gun, and I really want to get a good break-in period with that firearm. So at 5,000 rounds, I know I can trust my life to that firearm. Before that, how well do you know? I mean, I see 1,000 round torture tests all the time. It's like, I don't know how much you can really learn about a gun in 1,000 rounds. I've got guns that still surprise me that have 20, 30, 40,000 rounds on them. And, things will happen. It's like, man, where the hell did that come from? Oh, spring's worn out or whatever, or bad batch of ammo. But the simple fact is that we want to get these guns out and get them broken in. You're not going to do that by just wearing it on your belt. You're not going to do that by keeping it in a safe or your glove box. So I would encourage you guys, spend some time training, make sure you're comfortable with that firearm, that you understand the operation of it, that you spend the time and the due diligence to get that broken in, get the oil and all those little parts, get all those little parts moving and grinding together appropriately so that you have clean, crisp trigger breaks, that you know it's not going to break when you don't want it to. that it is appropriately set, that all your springs are set. The final thing that I want you to do at that 5,000 round mark is I want you to change out your springs. Any of the springs, a lot of springs are recommended to be changed out at this point in time. So when you clean it, you're going to go ahead and take 5,000 rounds, or I'm sorry, you're going to go ahead and take your 5,000 round interval, which is usually like your recoil spring. It may be your firing pin spring, especially if you're a 1911 guy. If you have a 1911 that's not like a Series 80 with a plunger, you're going to have probably your recoil spring or your firing pin spring at the same time. For those of you that don't know, the firing pin spring on a 1911 is real stiff, and it's part of the drop safety feature on it. And so those you generally change out when you change your recoil spring. So I want you to do those both at the same time. At this point in time, again, you've gone through and done your detailed cleaning. You've changed your springs. Go out, put your 50 round screw up. Make sure that those springs are set. Because you just put new springs in, so you got to get those a little bit worn in, right? So make sure those springs get their set. Make sure that you got everything back together right. At this point in time, you've got a well broken in firearm. Thanks again for watching, guys. I really appreciate it. Make sure and like and subscribe to the channel.